they have no idea what I'm talking about. You Wisconsinites, you know what I mean. Great big, huge logging truck. So picture this big truck garage I was working in, and that logging truck was all the way in the back, all the way to the back of the shop. My service truck was backed up to it. It was a 3-day job. I was called in because this thing was leaking coolant. It was leaking antifreeze. So I got called in to fix it. We took it, I diagnosed it, worked on it all day Tuesday, we work on it Wednesday, order the parts come in Thursday morning, I put it back together Thursday, and I get to the point where I can start the engine and I'm running the engine. The guy that I'm working with was the part-time mechanic / part-time driver for this logging company. So we're working together. I've known him for many years. We get to the end of the job now, it wasn't completely back together because this guy, he had some technical ability, so he could do some stuff, and I'm charging like, a lot per hour, so they want to get me out of there as soon as they can. So when I got to the point where he could finish it up from there, he's going to finish it up from there. If that makes sense to you, right? So looking at the front of the truck, it was a conventional, a long nose, so it had a hood, this Peterbilt did. So the hood is open. So if I'm looking at the front of the truck, the hood is open. Big chrome bumper that goes across the front of the truck. If you look on the passenger side, my left, as I'm looking at the front of the truck, and you come to that side and you look at that front wheel, Leonard, the guy I was working with, had removed that front wheel so that we could get an engine hoist in next to the engine for access, so that wheel is removed. In order to remove that wheel, he had to jack the truck up. So what he had done was, he had used a bottle jack, and if you were to get on your knees and look underneath that truck from the front, so get on your knees, right, and you're to look underneath the front bumper towards the back of the truck, there's just that little gap to look underneath the bumper, but when you look back, you see that the lowest thing to the ground on the whole truck is the front axle. The reason why is because it's a drop axle. All that means is this: here's your 2 front wheels that move when you turn your steering wheel. Out of those wheels, that axle connects, it just drops down on both sides, like this, and it goes across, like here. And so between the bottom of that axle and the cement or blacktop or whatever it is, there's maybe only like this much space. A little guy like me on a creeper could just barely slip underneath it on most trucks. A big guy, a big mechanic, could not go underneath that axle. They'd always have to get out from underneath the truck, go around it. So Leonard had jacked up this axle. The axle is about this wide, front to back, like front to back, about that wide, about that tall, shaped like an I-beam. And on the 2 front tires, just on the 2 front tires, 10,000 to 12,000 pounds of weight. So 5 to 6 tons of weight on the 2 front tires. He's jacked it up on the passenger side to remove that wheel. What he failed to do is he did not use any jack stands or safety equipment. So I'm wiping my tools off. We start the truck up. It's running. The wheel's still off. He's going to put the wheel back on Friday. The air cleaner's still off. He's going to put that back on Friday. I remember looking up at the clock on the wall. It was 6:10 p.m. I had left my house that day at 6 a.m. So I'm thinking to myself, I got an hour ride home. I was like 2 minutes from walking out the door. I think it's going to be a 13-hour day, whatever, which I was used to working long days like that. And so I'm wiping my tools off, putting them away in my truck. The engine is running to test the repair to make sure it's no longer leaking coolant. And he comes up and taps me on the shoulder, and he says, "Hey, before you go, I'd just like you to take a look at one more thing." I said, "What is it?" He said, "Well, there's a dirty spot on the engine." He said, "And I can wipe that dirty spot." And it was a cat engine in this Peterbilt, so it's a bright yellow engine. And he said, "I can wipe this spot off, and within a couple weeks, it's a big dirty spot again." He said, "Every time I check the oil, look at it, it just drives me crazy." He said, "But it doesn't, I don't have to add oil. I don't see it dripping out on the ground." He said, I can't tell where it's coming from because it doesn't drip." He said, "Can you diagnose it and fix it?" And he said, "If you have to order parts, or maybe you can show me what to do or whatever." He said, "I know you're getting ready to go home right now, but just diagnose it. That way we can get the parts, whatever." So I said, "Where?" He said, "In the front of the engine towards the bottom." He had just crawled out from underneath that front bumper. I had done everything from the top. Leonard had done the stuff from the bottom on the job. He had helped me on the job. So he crawls up underneath this truck. He had an orange, little short, junky plastic creeper. Now as a mechanic, the right tool for the right job is great, and junky tools drive a mechanic crazy. Tools that break or that are cheap tools are horrible to try and work with. And so a mechanic, a creeper is one of those things. If you're using a creeper all the time, you've got to have a good one. So I had like a $300 snap-on creeper on my truck with big wheels on it, because these little junky do-it-yourself type, home person creepers, they got these little wheels, and if you try to, you go over a little pebble, it stops, right? I mean, and they got weird wheels where you try to go this way, and it will literally send you the other way, and they won't go where you want them to go. So I know people, I can see in the people's faces who know battle with those stupid things, right? Well, I had this awesome creeper, and I remember looking down this creeper. It didn't have wheels in the middle, it was just on the ends, and it was plastic, and it was hollow. And we're thinking, I don't even want to get on that piece of junk. And I looked up and mine was still strapped into my truck, and I thought, you know what, I'm getting ready to leave, forget it, I'm just going to use his. Thank God I did. So I get on his junky little hollow core plastic creeper, I lay on it, I go underneath the front bumper feet first, I'm crawling underneath the truck, laying on my back, and that's how you use these creepers usually, you lay on them. So I'm laying on this thing, I slip under, and just as I go underneath the front bumper, I stop and I said to Leonard, hey, why don't you jump up inside the truck, see what the temperature of the engine is, if it's up like 180 degrees, shut it off. It had been running for like 20 minutes, so I slip underneath the front, all the way underneath the truck. Now the bumper's back here behind my head, and that axle has got this 10,000, 12,000 pounds of weight, is right between my belly button, right between my ribs and my pelvic bone, basically, right above my belly button. And it covers that whole distance. I'm right underneath it, right about in the middle of the truck, maybe a little bit left of center. I'm looking up at the bottom of the engine, it's up here about that far away. He gets in the truck, and the truck shifts, which they do, and that's just the way they're made. He gets in it, kind of shifts and rocks, and I saw movement in the peripheral vision of my eye, and I looked over, now that Jack was holding up that axle, and I had seen that he had not used any jam strings, and I had seen that he didn't have any locking under it, and you know what, I had taken that shortcut my own self before, and I thought, I don't care, I'm fine. I see some movement in the peripheral vision of my left eye, and I turned my head just in time to see the Jack that's supposed to be holding up that axle fly out like a rocket. I mean, it like wiggled, and it shoots out. It flew out with so much force, like stuck in the wall. But when it fell down, it came down across my midsection like a blunt guillotine and crushed my body in half. So it comes down and it hits the cement. Now this wheel is still on the driver's side. This is the side that it's off. But remember, it's a dropped axle, right? So if it was a straight axle that went just between the centers of the wheels and it dropped, it'd be this ridiculous angle, right? But because it's a dropped axle and it's pretty low already, it's not. It just dropped a little bit on this side. Because down here it's low, right? It's only this much space, so it just drops, and there is an angle. It hits the cement. When it did, and it crushed me in half, blood shot up from the inside of my body on impact, and shot out of my mouth, and blobbed on the floor right there. About half the size of a golf ball, just shot right out, like whoop, and it landed. And at that point, I just called out to Jesus, and I said, Lord, help me. And when I say Lord, I'm referring specifically to Jesus. I remember saying 2 times, Lord, help me. At that point, I looked down, and on the left side of my body, right here, the axle is touching the cement right here. I can reach out and touch it where it's on the cement, but it's come up an angle. And right here, there's about an inch of airspace between the bottom of the axle and the floor. So I know that my body was an inch thick. The creeper, the plastic hollow core creeper, crushed flat to nothing. It was like, 8-inch thick, thank God. Because my steel and wood snap-on creeper with the wheels in the middle, it would have just sheared me. Is what would have happened if it would have fallen on me. It just would have literally sheared me. Instead, it crushed me. I'm an inch thick here. I look over this side, and I'm about 2 inches thick. With the creeper totally flat. I was thinner than my vertebrae in my back. The 2 vertebrae, the width of the axle, were broken. So if you can picture the middle of your body being thinner than your spine. The lumbar were broken off, and the round part of the vertebrae were slightly D-shaped according to the radiology report. Spider crack, slightly D-shaped. So I just and that's just where it stopped, because it's on cement. So it's got me pinned down like that. The guy gets down on the truck. He goes into shock and freezes. I'm looking back at him, and I start telling him, call 911. Please call 911. I'm begging him. He calls 911. He gets down on the truck. Now he goes and gets the jack. The only place he can put it, he can't put the jack back underneath the axle because the axle's on cement. So the only place he could put it was on the big curved leaf spring. Well, you don't want to jack up 10,000 pounds on a curve, right? And so he's right over my left, the hood is still open, and I'm seeing what he's doing. I'm saying, no, not there. Don't jack it up there. And he said, it's the only spot I've got. Because the axle's on the ground, he can't put it underneath it. So he's jacking it up. The leaf spring is still connected to the axle on the top side of it. So he's jacking it up, and I know it's going to slip. And it does, but it wasn't like a big bang again. It just gradually slipped. And what it did is slip up to the point there was either a big bolt or a rivet holding that stack of leaves together on each end. And the head of the jack just came until it caught on that and stopped. So once it stopped on that, he starts jacking again. And he jacks up off me, and all that weight, if you can picture it, here's the curve of the leaf spring, all that weight on the head of the jack like this. And I know it's just going to, I'm just afraid it's just going to fly out. I'm freaking out big time, starting to go in shock. So I've been crushed in half, spleen, pancreas, small intestines, vertebrae, the arteries, the veins, everything here totally flattened out. If you, think about it, I'm an inch thick. Now, I'm an inch thick on the left, 2 inches thick on the right, just a little bit smaller in my spine in the middle. Everything that's in there is totally crushed because when the meats come together, everything that's in the middle is crushed. And there was one rib that got knocked off on this side. So the rib acted like a knife from here over. So it made sure to cut everything. So everything, the width of the rib is cut. This side, it's all just crushed. So he jacks the truck up off of me. And when I looked down at my body, if you could imagine this, so now the axle's off of me. When I looked down at my body, if I had been turned sideways to you, this is what you would have seen. My work uniform went to the edge of my ribs, it went down, went flat, and came back up. And as I looked at myself, it was so surreal. It was so cartoonish. That's exactly what I thought to myself. This looks like something straight out of a cartoon. And this looks like, you know, Wile E. Coyote gets run over by Acme truck, and he's a pancake. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. When I'm looking, I'm thinking, there's no way. Like, there's no way I should be able to be alive and look at myself like this. It's impossible. I'm thinking, that's it. I'm dead. This is going to kill me for sure. So I'm freaking out. I'm begging, get me off of the truck because I'm afraid the jack is going to slip. He wouldn't touch me. Most people are told you don't want to move someone if they got a back injury. I'm this thick, right? He knows I have to have a back injury. He won't touch me. So I reach back and I grab the bottom of the chrome bumper back here behind my head. Just back here. And I'm able to drag myself out this far. The creeper is flat. It's broken in the middle. I mean, if you picture, the wheels are still on the end, and the ends are still up, but it's flat in the middle where it was crushed. And so the weight is touching, not the weight of the truck, obviously it's jacked off, but just the weight of my body is dragging. It took everything I had. I remember I had my head, for whatever reason, turned to the right side. I had a short sleeve work uniform and it slipped up. I remember watching my bicep just jumping like crazy. I was shaking so bad. As I pulled myself out, I was thinking, you know, I had pretty good upper body strength from working on heavy equipment. At that time, I mean, I've lost it all now, but I had, you know, big arms, you know, for my size and big chest, and I could do lots of pull-ups easily. And it took everything I had just to do one. And I'm thinking, oh, I'm so screwed. And I'm looking at myself, and I got this thing, I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. I got it like this far. Now this much is sticking out from underneath the front of the truck. First responder, he called 911. It's an area, it's a volunteer fire department. So, I mean, there's no real fire department, it's a volunteer fire department. The guy was on his way home, he's right there. Like literally when the fire call came in, he's right there. So he shows up to see an accident within minutes. He shows up. I was still there, I was still alive when he showed up. The second one got there. They're freaking out, they're looking at me. They call MedFlight from right here, Madison Trauma Center. University Hospital, where I ended up getting MedFlight to. So it was about that time. 10 people ended up coming to see the accident, but when the first 2 people got there, it was about that time I died. Now I can say I died for a couple reasons. I had a heartbeat, I had a pulse. When they got there, they were trying to talk to me. I remember trying to mumble to them. I couldn't make much out at this point. And it was then that my heart stopped. When my heart stopped, my pulse stopped. They couldn't find a pulse. I remember exactly what happened for me. My head slumped back to this right side again. My eyes almost all the way closed and slumped to the right side when my heart stopped. The reason why I stopped, I bled out. 5 places, major arteries severed, plus all the rest of the veins and arteries are severed in there, the minor ones too. I just bled out internally, so all my blood ended up in here. When I did, my spirit left my body. Out-of-body experience, near-death experience people talked about. I ended up in the roof of the ceiling about 15 feet up, just right in the bottom of the ceiling. I'm just watching from above now. I'm up there in perfect peace. That's the best words I can use. They say right now in the world there's 8 to 10 million people who've had an out-of-body experience at the point of death. 8 to 10 million people. There's 300 million people in the United States, approximately. There's 7-point-something billion people in the world. So 8 to 10 million on 300 million or on 7 billion is actually a pretty small percentage. But these 8 to 10 million people who had an out-of-body experience, stroke, heart attack, drowning, car accident, whatever, the heart stops, their spirit leaves their body just like mine. They watch from above just like me. Sometimes they go to heaven, sometimes they go to hell, whatever they experience. A doctor resuscitates them, CPR, defibs, whatever, their spirit comes back in their body. Out of body, near-death experience, whatever. So I'm up there watching from above in perfect peace. I mean, amazing, perfect peace, watching everything. The guy that I was working with, he's on his knees. First memory that's burned in my mind. He's on his knees above me, he's running his fingers through my hair, and he's apologizing, he's saying, I should be the one that's dead, not you. I'm sorry, because he jacked it up and not used the safety equipment. He's apologizing, he's just crying. Now I'm up there watching him, and I could care less. I mean, literally, it didn't make me even a little bit sad. I was just like, it didn't matter at all. And I'm just watching, and all of a sudden, it's like the camera zoomed out, and I realized there's 2 angels on an angel on each side of him, 2 angels total. Leonard is on his knees. Leonard is about 6'1", 6'2". He's on his knees, running his fingers through my hair, and on each side of him were these angels, also on their knees, but their heads stuck up about 2 feet taller than his. So they would have been like approximately 8 feet tall. Big, broad shoulders. Again, I'm guesstimating, something like this. white shining robes with a belt in the middle of the robes, long hair. I'm looking at their backs because they're up against the front of the truck. The one on the driver's side has got his hands over, and his hands are right in the middle of my body where I'm crushed flat. The one on the passenger side, matching bookend, hands in the middle of my body where I'm crushed flat. From both sides, on each side of Leonard, on each side of me. They didn't have wings. There's approximately 300 times that angels are mentioned in the Bible. 300 times angels are mentioned in the Bible. Sometimes they have wings, the ones in Isaiah, sometimes they don't. These angels didn't have wings. I could tell they were men. I never got to see their faces because they were facing the front of the truck and facing my body. So I'm up here in the ceiling, the real Bruce, the spirit Bruce, looking down from above, and just my flesh suit, right, is down there, my body. The real Bruce, right? How many people have ever gotten paid with a check and it came, maybe, a lot of times they do different things now electronically, but how many people remember getting paid with a check and it came in an envelope? Once a week or twice a week? Anybody? Right? I used to get paid twice a week, it came in an envelope. When you open it up, what do you do with the envelope? What's the important part? Check on the inside. See, it's the same in our bodies. It's just an envelope. It means nothing. It's just an envelope. The important part is our spirit man lives on the inside. That's the part that matters. That's the part you can take to the bank. My spirit man left my body. I'm watching from above. And the angels are there, and I'm just watching. I could care less. I'm just watching it all happen. And what happened was, they're coming. I'm listening to them saying that guy down there is dead. And they had called MedFlight. MedFlight comes, but they had not called an ambulance. No way to get the body from the scene of the accident to the MedFlight, so MedFlight goes back to Madison. Then they call an ambulance. Then the ambulance comes, and I'm watching them both, listening to it all happen. Then they call an ambulance. It comes from a local hospital, Adams Friendship, comes and picks me up. But before that happens, this lady shows up. Number 9 and 10, the last two people. I counted from above. 10 people, volunteer fire department. Number 9 and 10 came in the wrong door. Everybody else came in the main entrance. Little detail, I spoke to the volunteer fire department a year later. Little detail, but that detail proved to those people there, I really was above, because that guy ran the truck with no heartbeat and no pulse and no eyes open, told them 10 people came, and told them 2 came in the back door, and asked in front of everybody, why did you and you come in the back door? And everybody else came in the main entrance. Little small detail, but there was a small reason too. It wasn't even a big reason why. But it really proved I was above watching from above watching down. So the last 2 people get there. One of them is named Shannon Celia. She's been interviewed in different stories. Country Music Television interviewed her when they did my story. History Channel, Discovery Channel. But so she comes in, 2-month-old baby Christian. 2-month-old baby Christian. She prayed me back to life. And this is the way she did it. She got down. She was between the angels. She said, I was praying that God would send angels. Well, they were there before she got there. She gets down between the angels. She's feeling for a pulse. They said, oh, he's been dead for several minutes. He's passed. She says to Leonard, who's now standing on the side, what's his name? He says, Bruce Fernandez. This was her act of faith. Nobody knew. I didn't know from above she was praying. I just watched, and I found out later, this is what she was doing. She was saying, this is what everybody heard. She was going, Bruce Fernandez, open your eyes. Bruce Fernandez, open your eyes. Now, as I watched from above, there was these 2 guys on that side, the passenger side truck, looking down at her when she started doing, they're giving her the crazy lady look. Like, did you not hear what we said? They're not going to do CPR. I've got broken ribs. I'm crushed flat. They're not going to do anything like that. I'm dead. I've obviously bled up. It's just game over, right? And so they're looking at her like she's crazy, and she gets louder and louder. Bruce Banetta, open your eyes. Open your eyes. And all of a sudden, shh, my spirit comes back into my body, and my heart starts, and I open my eyes, and there's this red-headed Shannon Celia right here, looking at me, like right there. So she prayed me back to life. This woman prayed me back to life. So I called out and I said, Lord, help me. He sent the angels. He sent this woman to come pray me back to life. I ended up, there was a tunnel, and it stretches out more. It hurt so bad after I came back in my body. I was up here feeling great. Now I'm back in my body, and I feel like a truck is falling on top of me, right? And I'm like, no, forget this. So I just shut my eyes again. When I shut my eyes, my heart stopped. Which this does not sound medically right or normal. But when I shut my eyes, I'd cash out, my heart would stop. And there was a tunnel that all of a sudden showed up at about a 45-degree angle going out, and it was light on the end of the tunnel, and I just rocketed away in the tunnel. And she's back there going, open your eyes! And I can hear her way distant, and all of a sudden, I get sucked back into my body. My heart would start again. She said every time my eyes would open, she could feel a pulse right here. Nowhere else. She couldn't feel it on my wrist. Couldn't feel pulse anywhere except right here was the only spot she could feel pulse. And I come back as soon as I'm back in my body. My eyes open. The pain comes back. I'm like, oh, it hurts so bad. as soon as I closed my eyes, the pain would go away. So I mean, I just like felt good, right? So I just kept doing it. And we went back and forth, and finally that's when God spoke to me. And I mean, he spoke straight up clear, just like I'm talking to you right now, and he just said, if you want to live, you're going to have to fight, and it's going to be a hard fight. I didn't know that it meant I'd be at this university hospital, whichever direction it is from here, for a year. I didn't know it meant we were going to lose everything financially. I didn't know that it meant I didn't have workman's comp. I had 80-20 insurance. I didn't know that my 20% insurance was going to be several $100,000. I didn't know any of that. I didn't know that they'd say I wasn't going to be able to lift anything or work or walk or anything, but God did. And see, what I love about Jesus, one thing I love about Jesus, he doesn't lie to us. He never lies to us. He said, in this world, you're going to have trouble. You're going to have tribulation, but take heart, I've overcome the world. So he said, if you want to live, you're going to have to fight. It's going to be a hard fight. I'm like, forget it. I took off. I left. She calls me back one last time. She prays me back to life one last time. And when I open my eyes, she's right here and she says, Mister, you are on the verge of life and death. What do you have to fight for? And when I realized God was now speaking through her as well, she says, and then she takes it a step further. She says, do you have a wife? Do you have kids? I totally forgot that I was married. I totally forgot that I had 4 little small children. We had 4 kids in 3 years. They're close together. They were little, about this tall at that time. I forgot that completely. And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah. I'm married. I've got 4 little kids. I need to fight for them. See, I couldn't fight for myself. It hurt to God. But I could stay and fight for them. Then I could do that. So that's what I did. I said, okay, I'll partner with you, God, in this, and I'll fight. And so I fought, keep my eyes open. They med flight me here to Madison Trauma Center. I land on the 8th floor, I believe. They rushed me in. There's a big garage door looking thing. They start taking CAT scans. The 2 night shift doctors get in an argument. We found out 6 months later when one of them came to visit, because I stayed there, like I said, on and off that next year, stayed here in Madison over the next year. And he came to visit, and he brought a little memory stick, and I said, hey, why are you guys fighting that night? And he's like, oh, we weren't, we were just having a disagreement. I'm like, okay. That's what we say to our kids, too, right? And he said, why are you guys arguing? He said, well, follow me. At that time, I had a walker. My wife carried the thing, and I had my walker, and I cruised down, and he plugs the memory stick into the computer and showed us, and he said, and I quote, he said, these were the CAT scans of a dead person. But your eyes were open, and your heart was pounding like you were a 20-year-old kid running a marathon. So I said, this doctor goes, I said, the CAT scans are lying just because of this, and he came up with some idea. The other guy goes, that's impossible, it's got to be this. They both had a different idea, and they both said, you're wrong, to the other guy. So they're arguing about what to do. It stretched out 2 hours and 40 minutes from the minute the truck fell on me until they cut me open and began to do emergency operation. 2 hours and 40 minutes with 5 places, major arteries completely severed. All my blood had bled out. They put 18 units of blood in me when I got to Madison. They're putting in, it's just leaking out. That's like 3 times the blood the body holds. They're just putting it, just leaking right out because, so God supernaturally used the angels to do whatever he did where they had their hands in there. And at some point, he finally like, okay, that's enough. And he just made the doctors cut me open and put my arteries back there. But they said I was never going to live. So there was a doctor, Dr. Michael Schur. Anybody know him or hear of him or have him as a doctor here at Madison? He ran the trauma center and the burn unit in the University of Madison Hospital. A younger guy compared to the older doctors. They called him a medical genius. He had written many papers. He was like a really super smart guy. Now he was running the largest hospital in Denver. But at that time, he was running the trauma center. He came out and told my wife, they called him in from home. He comes in from home. He finishes up the operation. He comes out and tells my wife, I have never, in all my years of running trauma department, ever seen a body traumatized like this and still be alive. We don't expect him to live. So cross your fingers. My wife says, I'm not going to cross my fingers. I'm going to pray. And so she had, the only thing she had taken to the hospital with her was her Bible. She never left my side for 3 weeks. And all she took to the hospital that night with her was the Bible. So they prayed, and every half hour that I was alive, every 30 minutes that I was alive, it was such a miracle that they prayed and said, God, thank you for 30 more minutes of life. And they did it all night long. And in the morning, the doctor's like, well, we don't know why he's alive, but we're going to go back in and we're going to do a little bit more. And so they operated on me all week. They operated on me the whole rest of that week, kept me open.